Aho, ake. YouTube oyate. YouTube people. Ake yokpia. Wahia takedo. I'll come and sit here in a good way, in a happy way. Being here, for those of you that may need encouragement. Iwash ag unichapte about the language and the culture. That is why. That is why. Unhipi, we come here. Onki chiapte. Kai togash. Otoka wochiki pegan hunt. Akeun scumped do. Mitaku epe I say. I'm gonna ask Creator to be with us to keep our minds, our body, our spirit, Dakota spirit, mind, body, strong so that we meet the challenge of becoming or wanting to become who we're supposed to be as Dakotas with language and culture, understanding history, where we are today, moving forward. These are my thoughts this morning again, Every day it seems to me that I think of these things because time is of the essence, as they say, Those of us that are fluent in the language are getting less and less now. It makes me worried for the future. So those in mind, I'll say a prayer to Creator to be with us again today, to strengthen our mind, our body, and our spirit. Tawachi is the mind. Tachan is your body. Your spirit is your nagri. To be strong to meet the challenges of the future. Hichitun kato kantaka. Ake detchit hoichichia wahiatak. Ato kilge. Ana hopnape. Ato kiatuilge wachiniape. Aunshuichakido. Dakota wachi ake uhiatakape. Atue hoini cheka unshikido. O tawachi nagi chate tacha. Wash aguicha. Apiucha ayahechit. Ahoichichi. Hacha tuwe ichichu, o Dakota kti ichichu kaha, mushikidaga. Oki awo ya hechir hoyoga. Ania chia taha dina hechir ehapi. O da unkotapte ehapi. Dani kotapte ehapi. Hacha kedechit. O hiatakape. Hacha ampetu kede erionkichitompo. Omitaku ya michinsha mitakusha, tokia kodaucha uke. Ahiwa chimpi hahina. Aedewicha tu. Aya toa kantaka tistira hoichichira. Aoshima kidega dina edemichitu. Omitaku ya was. Hohechitu, that is so. Hechitu. That is so. And as I was mentioning, there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about our future as Dakota people. What is it? What is it that prevents us from being Dakota? What is that? And I've talked about this before. It's in our mind, as I spoke about to Creator. It's in our mind, Tawachi, in our nagri, our spirit, our soul. That's where we think, we formulate things. What is good, what is not good? What shall I do today? What is important to me? That is where things start. And that's where the challenge is in the mind. Tawachi. I spoke about what it might be like in the future, in the very near future actually, when you will be challenged if you are a Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, or not. We have a very special place in society as we know it, Canadian society, American society. The people that govern us, what are their plans? What are they thinking about? When I get up, I stand up and say, Damakota, I'm a Dakota. Atewa kantanka wichuni o makuda. Creator, give me a life. Atewa kantanka makocha o makuda. Creator, give me a territory, a place to live, to survive, to function. Adina atewa kantaka makunaka. These Creator gave me, so I act like these are mine. That is the problem, the issue that the Iapi, the government has. Because we are given this land to live, to survive as a Dakota, Nakota, Lakota. Because we want to hold on to what Creator gave us, inalienable rights, what Creator gave us to be ours. Lands, water, air, these things that gives us life. These we say is ours, and that is the problem of the government. That is what they're after, to take that away, that mind, that thought of ownership to what Creator gave us. And that's a test every day when you think about it. How do we maintain ownership to what Creator gave us? We can say it, but can we protect it? How they're going to do that, I believe, and I won't be very far to say that they are going to do it legally. Every legal aspect, every legal avenue they're going to use to wrestle these things from us. And it's been happening since colonization. These things, and that's been questioned, these things that Creator gave us to understand to be ours, given to us by Creator. That attitude, that notion, that belief has to be wiped out. And that's why they create residential school, different religious practices. These are designed, and you could see some of it in the policies and the legislative policies that the government has on how to deal with Indian. Starting from Indian Act, how to deal with the Indian Act. Is that a law? is an act a law? They make us believe it's a law. So they're actively wrestling that away from us. And these are the kinds of things that I think about constantly. Why is the Indian not want to be an Indian? Why is a Dakota not want to be a Dakota when that is their very protection? Inalienable means that Creator gave you this existence. Nobody can take that away from you. Nobody, lawfully, legally, by His laws, Creator's laws, lawfully, legally, if there is. So, but it is understood, even though He's given us these existence, you can give it away if you want. Or you can allow it to be taken away if you want. So that is what they're doing. So that is what is happening. We've given up. We're allowing, unknowingly, mind you, unknowingly. And I talked about policies and laws, Indian Act. They have policies like in the beginning of our loss of the way we live, language and culture. They bring in residential school, take language and culture away. Also, they have policies that govern our government here. Policies that they've created to minimize, diminish, take away our rights as Indian people, holders of land, water, air, which was given to us by Creator. They have to make us give it up. So it's taken this long, 1867 to today. And they are fast-tracking that plan to do exactly that, take these away. And they do it through policy, Indian policy, like Section 35 of the Indian Act. And there are frameworks on how to do this. Take land, framework on land, which is very important to the government because without clear ownership of the land, there cannot be a country, a legal country. And that's been posed to them in the early days of 1900, latter part of 1800s, a League of Nations meeting where Canada wanted to join, United States wanted to join. But they were asked, Canada was asked about jurisdictional integrity. And those words came out over there. Do you have legal title to the lands and resources? Because all other countries that belonged to the League of Nations at that time claim and can prove that they own the land, like the Russians or the Asian countries, you know. They profess that they own the land, which makes them sovereign in their own country. But at that time, in the 1800s, and still today, as witnessed by what the goings on in BC today, Canada does not have full jurisdiction, ownership to the land. which they are still after. So they have policies like Section 35, framework agreements within that, how to take resources and lands away. And these are my thoughts all the time. How can we protect that? What we knowingly and understand that is ours. In order to protect all that, I have to remain Dakota, a full Dakota. The language with an Iapi, a population of Dakota, with a government, with a form of prayer, with our own laws. Those things that make a nation a legal nation. These have been eroded over time. And these are the thoughts that I have all the time. What can we do? How can we make the Dakota individual understand that? How language is so vital in retaining what we think we have given to us from Creator. Language is vital. Our governments need to understand that. The young people need to understand that. But who's going to tell them? The Otunka, the elders, we've been saying that. And again today or tomorrow, I just thought there's a language bowl for the younger generation, our grandchildren and Shakpe. They're going to go over there tomorrow. Iapi. Talk about language, regaining language. Very good. Washtera. I like that. That is the beginning. How do we maintain that? Dechia tiata at home. When we wake up, set up, think about our day. What am I going to do today? You think about that in Washichu, in English, you think about that. Your mind is geared like that, Washichu. What am I going to do today? Oh, I think I'll go to town. That's in your mind. Washichu mind-speech process. That's in us today. When you wake up in the morning, you don't think Dakota. You don't think, what am I going to do today? That's not how you're thinking today. Dakota idukchashne. I think I'll go to town. You don't think that way in Dakota. No. Your thought is, I think I'll go to town. Daku wachi. What do I need in town? Daku wachi. You're not thinking like that in Dakota. You're thinking like that in English. What do I need today? My fridge is getting empty. You're thinking like that in English. So that mind, tawachi, you have to change that. Dakota idukcha wachanik. You're going to try to speak, think, do in Dakota. The doing part of it is just a process that follows the mind, the actual mind thinking in Dakota. The doing part of it is just the process, the physical part of it. But the mind is important, tawachi. So dina, these, dina. Taku iwoa hadake, what I'm talking about. Taku iwoa hadake. Dina, these. I think about that every day. Well, not every day, but constantly. It comes into my mind. Apetukinde this day, what am I gonna talk about? Taku iwoa hadake. Dead mankega. Apetu ata Dakota wo hadakamaka. I can sit here and speak in Dakota all day. All day. Oakihi, I can do that. I'm able to do that. Dei nawajinkte, I'll stand up. Deichi hukuya bedekte, I'm going to go down here to where all the activity is, maybe the gas bar, maybe the gaming center, maybe the government house, maybe a health office. I'll go down there. Dakota I inawajinkte. I'll go down there and I'll start speaking the language. Who's going to answer me? Due amayiptekta. Who's going to respond to my language? Hinay biduksan siya. Dichiya hukuya. Pawichon kiapi akape. Herwaichon chakiapi. The staff, Heri knows I got Dakota wo hadakikta. I'll go there, I'll stand there and I'll speak the Dakota language. Who is going to respond to me? Due amaiptekta. Taku iwo hadake taku epeki dina. Due okachnikekta. What I say, what I speak, who is going to understand me in my language? Due amaiptekta. Who is going to respond to me? Okeni. Okeni. Maybe. Okeni. There'll be nobody. Tueda amayiptektishnida. Nobody is going to respond to me in Dakota. Hey yukchan poita. Think about that. Damakota ama Dakota makota dote. Dakota wa wakra beta ate wachinkika. I'm by Dakota, I can speak language all day if I want. But I want to converse with somebody. Dwikshuo hadakawachinda. Hinatuepta. Who are those? Hinatuepta. Obo hadakiktiki. Wanin aida. There's less and less of us. So, as a Dakota that is on this land that Creator gave me, Dakota Nawaji, I can't be that fully because there's no fully Dakota down there where I go during my day here in Sioux Valley. So you're making it hard on me as a Dakota. The population here in Sioux Valley, you're making it hard on me to be this Dakota that I'm supposed to be, that I still am. Dina ibidukcha, I think about these things because I care about Dakota. Dakota be tewachind, I cherish it to be Dakota. Oma ke apo, help me in my old age to be that Dakota. Omakiapo, help me. How you can do that is to respond to me in Dakota, in the language. I think about these things. What can I say? What can I do to make the non-speakers understand how important language is and take it upon themselves to learn and to use the language because they have an understanding. An understanding on how important it is to the relationship between us as Dakota and the federal government and the governments that rule over us. I've used examples. For instance, our communities in Dakota, Makoche, we are not well. We know that. We know that. We're not well as a nation, as a community. We are not well physically. We're sick, not well. I thought, I'm going to go to town. I'm going to go see a doctor. I'm feeling down. I feel, I don't know how I feel down. I'm sick. The medicine man in town was I'm going to go to town, see the doctor. My car is there. Do I have gas in my car to get me to town to see the doctor? I'll go check it. I'll check. Oh, I need gas. I need gas for my Ichikahiyaya. Ichikahiyaya is the car. I need the gas. Si chaumpe, my pocket, si chaumpe, oahadu tanta. I'm feeling in there, oahadu tanta. Mazda ska oade, I'm looking for money. I'm going to buy gas for my Ichikahiyaya. Oahadu tanta, I'm searching in my pocket. No money. Mazaska maniche. I don't have no money. Mazaska. But then I'll think, oh yes. Dichi hukuya bedekta health hichi. Ish. Chief and Council ektabedekta. I have a right. I have a right as an Indian to get my gas to go see the doctor in town. I have a right, I'm an Indian. I'll go get gas. They'll buy gas for me. Yes, you have a right, because that's promised over there from the federal government, that they will do that for you, for taking up your land. They'll do that for you, as long as you're an Indian. Indian affairs happen. the relationship between Indian and the government. As long as you remain Indian, we will look after you. But while they're saying that, they're taking language and culture away. Because they can't be doing that forever. But if we remain Indian, they'll have to, because that is the agreement. The agreement is over land. We'll use your land, but we'll look after you, as long as you're an Indian. So, when I don't have no money in my pocket to go see the doctor because I'm sick, I can go down to the office here and demand, if I have to, some money so I can put gas and to go to Brandon, to doctor. Yeah, that is a right I have, as long as I'm an Indian. What is an Indian? What is an Indian? What is a Dakota? An Indian is an individual that was born here on Indian land, in Canada. I'm Dakota. My mother, my dad is Dakota. I'm Dakota. I have a language, Dakota Iwai. I have a culture, Dakota Wa'o. Dakota Wachawaki. I speak and I pray and I do in my language. That's an Indian. Are you that Indian? Can you do that? Can the people here do that? Because that is dependent on whether you get services or not. These are very real questions that I have. So I am the Dakota with a language, with a culture that I practice, because I'm a full Dakota. So while I am here today, I'm protecting you, the non-speaker, the non-doer, from taking these rights away from you by the government. I am protecting you. Because Dakota, why I can speak Dakota. I can speak, I can do Dakota. So those, all of you that are out there that without a language and without a culture, without doing it, I am protecting you. Think about it that way. When the speakers and the doers of Dakota are gone from this community, or any Dakota community, or any Indian community, when the speakers and the doers are gone, then the Iapi, that the government will come and they'll ask you, someday is coming, whether you can be Dakota or not. It's called assimilation. Making it to one. That is how I have to think. That is how I'm going to think. There's no other way. So think about that. The ones that are out there, the ones listening on YouTube, think about it that way. The ones that are talking Dakota and doing Dakota today are the ones that are protecting the non-doers, non-speakers. And that's the Otanka of today. The doers and the speakers. The Otanka of today. We still remain who we're supposed to be, protecting the rest. I thought about those things this morning. What can we say? What can I do to make the people realize The young people meaning anybody that's 50 and years, and to me anyway, at my age, anybody that's 50 is young to me. Anybody that's 60 years old, to me that's young. Anybody that's 40 and earlier, those are all my takojas. I can call them takoja, my grandchildren. That's who I'm talking about. I'm talking to you. Tohan, when? Tohan, dina, these. Understand. When these, understand. Tohan, dina, that your well-being is dependent on you being the Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, or any other tribe in Canada. Hina iukchawahiatake. Those are come here, sitting here. Iukchawahiatake. Wait till how hippe we come to the spring weather. A renewal. Wait till how hippe. Maga okada we app weekend this month. Maga okada we this month. Maga okada is May. When the birds, like the maga is the goose. Okada, that's when they're making nest. The goose, magaksicha, the ducks, and birds like that. It is time for them to make a nest for renewal. You do touch up there. You make yourself new again, their population. At these times, new growth happens. Piji, the grass gets greenery. Wato. Wato is greenery. Anything that comes alive in the spring, the greenery, the grass, the flowers, the trees. Chunky, chawapa is the leaf, chawapa. Tok, they become green. It gives us a good feeling. In time of renewal, ihidu techa, unchimaka, the grandmother earth, ihidu techa renews again. Ishtimi togash, we say that she's calm, she's sleeping, she's resting throughout the winter. Usnikigachan. Wetu kaha, at this time of the month, the sun moving back and forth. Dehantu kaha, at this time, idu techa, renews herself, brings on life again. We choichage, we chuni, ake. We enjoy life. Can put a garden in. Maga. Maga is garden. Remember, maga, depends on how you pronounce it. Maga is the garden. Maga is the goose. We make our garden. Bado kojupi, we plant bado. Ojo is to plant. Daku hechikchit, like those kinds of things, vegetables. Wato. Unkojupi, we plant. Ptanyetuka in the fall, ptanyetuka, unkokapi, we dig, we put it away for the winter months when nothing grows. So it's a time of renewal, Wetuka, this time of the year. Brings good feeling, brings energy. We've been slow all winter. Now we're getting up again. We're happy. We're young pipi for the new growth to happen. That is the time that we are in today. So let's have a regrowth of mind, body, and spirit. Tawachi, tachanahi, mind, body, spirit, a regrowth. Train our mind, tawachi. Train it. First you have to understand what you want to do, what you want to be, and you train your mind to do it, because your mind will convince you not to do it. Your mind is very powerful, tawachi. It can convince you not to do things by these thoughts, tawachi. He told the Dakota, I'm going to be a Dakota. If you have that in your mind, part of that might, your mind might say, no, that's today's, maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow you'll be Dakota. You convince yourself not to be. So you have to be strong in the mind. Your spirit, your physical self, your mind can control that. So you have to have strong mind to continue. When you have a thought, your mind to be strong so that your action will follow it. Because now you know how important it is. Your well-being is dependent on you being a Dakota. Dakota wa unka heche taya wa unkte. If I exist as a Dakota, taya wa unkte, I'll be okay. Because my life is dependent on it. Just like that example that I gave you, today's example. What could happen if you don't have the language in the future? The difficulties it could make. Because if you look around on the outside of our community here, to other nations, the Washichu and other nations that come here, they come here to Canada to enjoy what Canada can offer. If one of them is not feeling well and has to go to the doctor, that individual has to dig in his pocket, find the money to put gas in there to go to the doctor. Because he does not have an agreement with the government, for the government to pay that for him. Simple. But we do, as long as we're Dakota, as long as we're Indian, we do. The government will pay for us to go to Brandon, as long as you're going to the doctor, or as long as you're going to school. These are agreements. I'm cold today, I'm cold. Last night, yesterday, last month, I was cold. I need to turn my heat up. Am I paying for that heat? Am I paying for my house? No. A lot of us don't. That's because we're Indian, because we're Dakota. The government promised to look after these things for us, for taking up our land. What if I have to pay for my hydro? I can't sit down and dig in my pocket, see if I have money, $100, $200, $300 to pay my hydro. Hey, I don't have it. No. Oh yeah, I'll go to the office. Because there's an agreement there. Oh, I need a new house renovation. Oh, I'll go to the office because there's an agreement there between Dakota and the government, administered by our government here. Well, the regular Canadian citizen out there, they don't have that. They don't have that agreement. They have to pay for their hydro, their house. They have to buy the house. How much is a house to a good house? $500,000. They have to pay for that. They have to pay for the hydro, the water. Water is life, App. Sure, it is. It is. Without it, you won't survive. But we get these paid for us because we're Dakota. Oh, look, no, some of us are not Dakota. A Dakota is a person with the language and the culture, the activities that go along with it. That's Dakota. You don't have that. But I have it. So this community is Dakota because there's still speakers here. Those speakers are protecting you by being Dakota. These are my thoughts today. Trying to make you understand that it's important to be a Dakota. I can't find any other way of trying to explain it to you. Why it's important. The comforts, if we want to call it that, the comforts that we enjoy today, some of it is because we're Indian, because we're Dakota. If those services that are guaranteed are not there, we all have to work. You have to work. You can't be walking around with a hockey stick all summer. You have to work. Can we do that? Can I go find employment? And some do, and I commend them for that. Even though there's help in the community, they don't want that, they'd rather work, and that's good. Work, they toil for their family. I like that, for the young people that can do it. And you can do it. You can do it. I'm just trying to make a point here why it's so difficult. Why it's so difficult to be what Creator gave you life to be. And there's been questioned, the old people have been questioned, I've been questioned, well, why didn't you teach me? Well, we're trying to teach you now, and also make you understand why it's important. We're trying to teach you by being here. It's up to you to take that in a good way, because now you understand the importance of it, or you should. So when I go down here, when I speak, how are you doing? It's a good day. Being happy, I see you. Please respond to me. Respond to me. I'm doing good. Nishta. What about you? Simple. Now I have somebody to talk to. Now when I go to the office, say, hey, somebody will say, Washte, good. I'll be a female. Washte, a female. Washte do, that'll be the male. Do petu kinde. Washte do. How, washte do. Like that. How easy is that? It's easy to do. But you have to convince yourself it's easy to do. You have to convince yourself it's necessary that you do, because you're protecting your community. I try to say this, bring this message out in the least offensive way, but there's no other way. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody. I'm trying to point out something. And I'm limited in my English vocabulary to put it in a subtler way, subtler fashion, but to give you the bare facts of what's happening, what's been happening since 1867. And that is who we are today. We always say, look back. Look back. What happened? And look around you today. And what's happening? What's happening? Look in the future. Kta means it hasn't happened yet. Kta means it hasn't happened yet, but it will. And see what you can see. Think in the future. See what you can see that might happen. Because it changed. When you look back, you will understand, you will know what has happened to us as a Dakota. Indian Act policies. Prior to that, wars or fighting. All that is affecting us today. Ioyake means it's affecting. What's happening? What's happening? These things that are happening. It's affecting me. It's affecting us. It's affecting you. And you see the results of it today. Wadaka you're here. Ionia kapido, it's affecting you. Cha, so, takto kankompta, what are we going to do? We try to fix that. But what is the problem? Can we identify what the problem is? This is the problem here. These are the problems here. Here it is. We have to identify that. We think about it. Doktor hana wastekte say cheche, hero hana awachtanikta. I think about it, I understand the situation, the problems I've identified. Now I'm going to work towards improving that. It's just what I said in Dakota. Dina e taku yoyaka. Awabedeze. Owakachnige. Bedu toxicte. Awachtanikte. Here it is, our problems. I understand it, I've identified it, now I'm going to do something about it. That's just simply what I said. So Dina, these yukchampo. I thought I'll mention these things this morning. when I woke up, ibidotake hea. Dina ibidukt. Wetu hon hipida. We come to wetu. Ukihdo touch up the. Hon hipida. We come to wetu. A time of change, renewal. Hon hipida we come that for. So let's work together. Onki chapter. We'll help each other to plan and do for the future so that we will be protected as a Dakota. Hohina mitaku epe ibidukchado hachana kinde. I think about that this morning. Iapi, I'm not giving you a heck. Iapi, didn't yukcha po pera. Think about these, I said. Itogas hanaksak tedo, itogas breaki on your museum ki abhan akim skamter. Hey chitiro.
mitake api. Akedetsid. Wahibruta kega. Woekchen oota. Juha. Tohantucha. Taku oota ivoda kapteja kää. Tohantucha. Toke pekan. Ojatteki ukahne kapteja. You know, I carry a lot of thoughts about my Dakota way of life, how I was raised. You know, we were raised by my parents. My parents had lots of children. So my grandparents, Kushi Uka, they played a big part in our lives. And my Kushi and Uka are like my mother's parents. So, you know, we got to spend a lot of time with them. You know, talking Dakota and, you know, cooking the old way. I remember one time we were already in day school. After I came back from residential school, I went to day school. And my grandpa was there helping my mother to cook. Because she always had a lot of things to do, like doing laundry or, you know, sewing. So we came home from school, and there was a big pot of soup on the stove. And when, you know, of course, we always came home hungry. Coming home hungry. And there was oven bannock. So my uka poured or put, you know, soup into bowls, you know, just to cool them off. And he cut up cut up the bannock. And then we all sat, and it was bean soup. Oh, it was good. Iapi about up here. And there was meat. So we ate hats. Some of us had second helpings. It was really good. We were full. So we went and we played outside before it got dark. They called us in, and we're just inside talking, and I don't know, I can't remember if it was Ina or Ate told us, you know, we had skunk soup for supper. Makaya tapido, he said. We all looked at each other. But it was good, I must say. There was no smell to it. I don't know, like my grandpa, you know, was so good, you know, like in cleaning things, you know. And he cleaned this makagda, he cleaned it out really good. And there was no smell to it. And the meat looked like pork. And he had cut it up in very small pieces. And it was good. And after that, you know, we always, whenever he cooked, we always asked, "Hetako spaya, hetako." We didn't want to be surprised again. But he told us at that time, makag, you know, it's kind of like a spiritual food, I guess. At that time, you know, when Dakota, you know, our ancestors ate like that. And any kind of food, you know, like meat off the land, you know, it was very sacred. So makag ha yota, you know, because this was in the kind of in the fall, early fall, when we had this soup. So he was telling us, come winter, throughout winter, he said, hoiach baptishnido, he said, you're not going to catch a cold. Zania yaumtado, he said, you're going to be healthy, over the winter because of this food that you ate. And my grandfather was a very spiritual person. And my mom always said that whenever he did something, he always used that prayer as he did things, So I imagined, as he was cleaning, this skunk and cutting it up and, making the wahampi, the soup out of it, he put prayer into that, for us to have good health over the winter. And, it was, none of us hardly ever got sick during the winter time. Maybe, a mild cold, but, we didn't get very sick. We still had to walk a couple miles to school, came home, we still played outside when it was very cold. So, that foods like that kept us going. And now, we don't have that. Nobody eats like that now because maybe nobody knows how to clean it. I don't know. Or if anybody had ever, had maca soup. But, my family did. My grandfather and his family, my aunties and uncles, they had food like that. And we always had naku mashticha wahampi. He always made good rabbit soup. It was so good. That's how we survived. A lot of times, he was the one that saved us because there was so many of us in a family. He was the one that, that will bring the food and cook it. He did the cooking himself. He didn't let my Ina did any of the cooking because Ina always was busy, looking after children, household chores, that was what she was always doing while Uka, did most of the cooking. And my kunshi too, made bannock, a lot of oven bannock. So that was, the life we had growing up, eating different kinds of food. And in the springtime, come spring, the first gopher that you see, he'll catch it. He'll catch the first gopher, that comes out of its home in the ground. He'll catch a few of them. And we had a stove outside. And he'll singe the hair off the gophers and he'll put them in that oven right in a row, about 5 or 6 of them in a row. And then when it's done, he'll give us a piece, just a tiny piece for us to eat. And it was okay. The meat was okay. And he again, we were told that that was medicine. Because the gopher hibernated all winter, wani ito ata makamaherichi stime. So when spring came, he was full of, woakanga, pijiutagha, because he didn't go anywhere all winter, just stayed in one place and, had all this medicine. So when that first gopher, was eaten, it gave that energy, just like Nakaich that new energy, that new life, that comes from Unchimaka. That's what it was. It gave us, a new life to proceed on, over the summer, back into winter again. So, as Dakota people, Ahana, we were healthy. Nobody hardly got sick because we always had good food to eat. Food, off the ground. Tacha tadoga naku, mastinchag ha, and the beaver. And we had lots of fish. Hoga ota, we ate, late spring, early summer. My brothers will go fishing and they'll bring back hoga ota hadipcha. Ka hanaukis, myself and, my sister, na hecha hushkampe, scaling the fish and cutting them up. We it seems that although we were a large family, we never ran out of food because there was always food. And in early summer, we'll go out on the hills and we'll pick tipsana. Tipsana hana oka and what the wild turnips be digging, and we'll braid them or, put them into soup. We always had it. When we used to pick wild onions. You can smell it, as you come close to a patch of wild onions. You can smell it. So, we picked that and then of course my grandpa, Uka he always had a huge garden. They lived up the hill and we lived down the hill. So whenever we went up there, he'll be sitting in his garden pulling weeds. His garden was always clean. Rows and rows of carrots, potatoes, you name it, he had it in his garden. He actually had two gardens, one just the basic ones that, that they eat right away. But the other garden was for potatoes and corn. And that was a bigger garden. And it was kind of quite a ways from the house. But every time we went up there, he would be sitting in his garden pulling weeds. Or toyushida, taking the bad weeds out of the garden. And because there was no running water at that time, we got water from the pump. And his pump was quite a ways. But he had horse and wagon. So what he'll do is he had 2 barrels. He'll go and get the water first thing in the morning. And he'll park it by by the garden. And from there, he had about 2 pails. He'll fill those 2 pails and just put them on the ground. Ahan, ichuga, taku ujugna, maniwichaku. He watered his garden like that, getting water. It was, a tedious work, but he did it. Although he was an old man, he was a hardworking man, to keep a family going. So I think about that, and I think about the young ones around here now, especially the guys, the men. They don't have that energy, it seems, to provide what they should be providing. I know in the past, nobody had gardens. But now it's kind of coming back. We have a community garden, which is good because, we need to start doing that because our foods, our foods are getting expensive. Even just to buy a bag of potatoes, badog na hash, mazaska ote. Naku ako epi upetum ka, hai ja naku mazaska ote. Tu hecha hope to ye ka upanga num sam a hai hecha. They pay for their groceries over $200, $300 because of the price of food. Now, if we can have gardens, it wouldn't be as bad, but it takes a lot of work to look after a garden. You have to make sure that watogna, the weeds, watoshicha, the weeds are, pulled out of the gardens. Maniwichak upta, you water your plants, whatever that you want to grow. Hana hetchashkamta, every day, a pay to yohi hana hetchach awahada kapta. Without complaining, ikapaya to hetchashkanka, sometimes things don't work out. Ikapaya, that's complaining. Sometimes we're so good at doing that. But we have to do it, to provide. Some of our families there's lots of kids. We want our kids to have healthy foods, always food on the table. We don't want families to go hungry. That's why it's important to start to start planting, the foods that we need throughout the winter. My grandfather, he had a root cellar. He badog hana Paris is a tips and takuko hatchin and he used to keep them in a cool, dark place, and that's what that root cellar was for. Ka hewa niu to sneak agachan, they'll have a good meal. Dwe naku one of my ishira wichaki hewa ji nonach doki wini aiwa tado adipche takcha tado. Kahana, tayama untape. We depended on our kunshi uka, to help us provide the food. And I'm always thankful that they were there in our lives to show us these things, how to do things, how to do certain things, you know. So, we lived according to that. I always say, those were my good days. I liked, that era of my life. I didn't have to worry about anything, until I went to residential school. Then, everything changed a lot for me. Wahadigahan, Dakota Iapi, after coming home from residential school, I didn't care to speak Dakota. I thought, what's the use? Who's going to listen to me? Like things like that, thoughts like that. I want to work, and wherever I'm going to work, I'm going to be speaking English. So, so that's what I did. I put the Dakota language aside and, used the English language more so as I can have a good job and provide for myself, to have the things that I wanted, and that was my thought at that time. It was good, things went well. I had my own home, my own vehicle, things were working out. I went to I went to university, and became a teacher. I worked here and there, took that. If there's an opening, I went. And, I must say that I had a good life. I did the things that I wanted to do. So hana hechach wahadustanga wana tiata make. After I did all that, raised my daughter, I didn't work anymore. I retired. Ahan Dakota Iapi, awi badukja. Dakota wichok angna. So I started. Do kitwe wotcheke kaga iktawai. I went to ceremonies. I went to sun dances. Just so as I can get my life back as a Dakota woman, to understand more. Although I knew I grew up with it, but I wanted that refreshment, I guess, to renew myself, so as I can, provide in a Dakota way to help others, to understand our way of life. It was hard at first. People didn't really listen to me, but that was okay. I still continue to do that. In 2012, Itancha Wichaka Hanikapi, Head Mija Oape. I became a counselor in 2012 for 8 years. Shahdoga Ahaya Hechach Washka. And that taught me a lot too. How my Oyate was. I seen how it really was, how people operated, what people's thoughts were. Hana, I really saw that because a lot of people, Oyate Ota, they talked to me. They told me lots of things. Some were good, some were bad, but I listened to them. I tried to make changes, and I did what I could. For 8 years, I did what I could to help my people. I never walked away from anybody. I sat and I listened. Sometimes, I got called down, but that's okay. It taught me a lesson. So, I didn't take, nothing into, in a personal perspective, because if I did that, I wouldn't be a very good person. So I let them say what they wanted to say to me. And then after when they're done, is there any more that you want to say? And, sometimes they say no or they don't say anything. I said, Pida Maya, thank you for talking to me and telling me. That's how I approached them and told them, I thanked them for telling me how they thought about me, just so as they can understand too that, I'm not going to lash back. What's the sense, Mija he, what chinky I can yopuicha what oaki, but I chose not to do that because, again, I go back to how my grandparents were. Uka, ina, atewa, king hija, hechak tuetaku, shija inichi ka, just walk away. Ishtakish, and keep show, swallow. Swallow whatever, that you wanted to say back. So that's what I did, and it made my life easier. There's still, till this day, maybe some people don't agree with me, but that's okay. That's how they want to think. Well, they can think like that. And, and they can say, oh, na, tako na, na, but that's okay. Because this is how I was raised. I was raised to be a Dakota Wia. So, and that's what I want to do. Tukte o na what tue o akika, I will do it. Not to call down anybody in a bad way. And that's something that I've never done. Because why I don't do that is I believe in my prayer. I believe in sun dances, the ceremonies. I believe in those. I believe in Wakantanka that he can guide me and help me and show me the way in a good way. So that's how come, I want to remain, as who I am. I'm not going to change myself for better or for worse, just to be neutral about everything. And I accept anything, good or bad. If it's going to be like that, well, so be it. But mitakuyapi, sometimes it's hard to live a life like that. Sometimes you get, just like you want to say something back, but you bite your tongue, and it's hard to do. But, I trained myself to do that, to hold back. Instead, I look up to Wakantaka Ushimada. Wakantaka Ushimada, oh, Creator, have pity on me. I just say that. Or Omakia, help me. That calms me. I'm just an ordinary human being too. I get hurt. I get angry. I can get chazé. get mad. But there is such a thing as control, and that prayer, you always put that in front of you. Always use it, walk with it, to help you guide, put you back on that path again, and not to go off of it. That's what you call being a Dakota. And my late father used to say, Dakota uchochen otechike. And that's so true. I really had to think about that. Dakota uchochen otechike. It's hard to have a good Dakota life. And that's so true. We put all our might into it, but sometimes, just like it's still not enough. But we do what we can, to help yourself, to help others, especially help yourself in a good way. Train yourself to look after yourself, to look after your spirit, your mind. Because if you don't, you'll become lost. So you always have to look after your spirit. Dakota look after that spirit name or Dakota name, because that's what's keeping you going. Respect that name. Whoever gave it to you, always give thanks to that person, because that person gave you that name for a reason, for you to keep on going in a good way, to walk the good way. So, we have to, again, train ourselves to think like that. It takes time. It's not going to happen, just like that. It'll take time. But one of these days you will see what it really means. So Iapi, hana mishachach tana epawache, to look after ourselves. One of some of us are unzanivshni, because of the things that we do or say, we are becoming unhealthy because of the lives that we lead. Sometimes, it's not good. But sometimes, a lot of times, we make it like that, and we don't have to. We have to, be of good mind all the time, and to have a good heart, a happy heart, a good spirit. Ito hana awiyuk. Think about it. Think about, there's a lot of things that Ichi and I had talked about. Think about those things. If you're out in YouTube listening, play it over again, and try and get what we're trying to get at. At one point in time, you will understand, and you would see it. Like I said, it's not going to happen just like that. It takes time. So, Iapi, ito hanana epekte. Pidama apia.
Thank